Bonjour, welcome to the MMA Sucker podcast. It is our UFC Paris preview for this weekend's card on Saturday afternoon, evening for European and UK MMA fans. This is crazy. It's 2 weeks in a row. We had UFC Shanghai and we had UFC Paris, both week after week. We had a week break, but two straight UFC cards, both on a nice time for the European fans. I've got my French shirt on. Let's jump straight into the main event. Nassourdine Imavov versus Caio Borralho. What a fight this is in the middleweight division, in a booming middleweight division. Straight off the bat, I'm going to say it's a close matchup. I really do think it is. And there's a good chance that this determines the number one contender for Chimaev's belt. So it's a bit of a poison chalice. You know, if you win this, congratulations, you've got to fight against Khamzat Chimaev. I mean, these guys are fighters. They're never gonna step down from a fight, but if you win, you get Khamzat Chimaev. I think that's a little bit harsh on the winner if Chimaev's last performance was anything to go by. But then you've also got the matchup between Renier Derrida and Fluffy Hernandez. So this could be seen as sort of like a semi-final. One semi-final, let's say Imavov wins this, let's say Fluffy wins the other one. Those two guys face maybe towards the end of the year, and then we've got Chimaev's next contender. Let's jump straight into some stats for each man. This is just from UFCstats.com. Nassourdine Imavov is 16-4-0 with one no contest. Caio Borralho has only got the one defeat on his record, 17-1-0 with one no contest. Average fight time, fairly similar. Imavov 14 minutes 23, Caio Borralho 12 minutes 51. Imavov's going to have a slight height advantage at 6'3" in comparison to Borralho's 6'1", but they both have a 75-inch reach. Imavov is 3 years younger than Borralho, and then we're going to talk about some of the striking stats a little bit later on. But the main event itself, in my opinion, Nassourdine Imavov has faced better opposition. He's beaten Edmund Shabazian, who was ranked at the time, Joaquin Buckley, which is a win that has aged really well with Buckley, what he's gone on to do at welterweight. He went 5 rounds with Sean Strickland, former champion. Beat Roman Dolidze. He finished Jared Cannonier. Now that's a fight we're going to come back to in a second. He beat Brendan Allen, who again, top 10 middleweight contender, and last time out became only the second person to finish Israel Adesanya. Now, say what you will about where Adesanya is in his career at the moment, he's only the second person to ever finish Israel Adesanya on the feet by knockout. He's been slightly more active on the feet with 4.45 strikes landed per minute in comparison to Borralho, who lands 3.61 strikes per minute. And if you look at who Borralho has faced, Abus Magomedov, it's not a bad win. Paul Craig is a good win. And Cannonier last time out went to a decision. It was a fight of the night, which means it was an extremely close, well-fought battle between the two men. And it's also worth noting there's two sort of things that I want to sort of highlight about Caio Borralho. He hasn't fought since last August, so he's had the best part of a year off. The last fight was August the 24th. This will be September the 9th. So he's had pretty much 12 months off. And he made weight for UFC 319 as a backup fighter just 2 weeks ago. How much of an impact is that going to have had? When he was in, I can't remember where the fight was, Vegas or Chicago? I think it was it Chicago? Let me double check that. I think it was in Chicago. When he was in Chicago making weight before Duplessis and Chimaev faced off against each other, what was Imavov doing? He was probably training. He was probably, in the gym, training, getting ready for this fight. Now, how much of an impact is that weight cut? 185 pounds. He got down to 185 pounds. He got down to championship weight 2 weeks ago while Imavov was off training. I think that could at least play a factor in Caio Borralho's, his weight cut again. Obviously, he's going to be a lower weight for this fight than he usually would coming into it. And, we'll have to see about the cardio that Borralho brings into this fight. Because, like I said, 2 weeks is not a long time to drain your body of all that fluid, then blow back up, then drain it again. You know, he's flew from Chicago. I don't think he had any fighters in Shanghai last week. Let me double check. I don't think that he had any fighters. Not that I can remember anyway, just off the top of my head. I don't think he had any fighters in Shanghai, so he wasn't in the corner for anyone in Shanghai, but he flew from Chicago to Paris. So he's cut weight. He's flown from Chicago to Paris. Then he's having to make weight again. It's a big ask for Caio Borralho. It's a big ask. Because he's not a small guy either. He's a big, muscular guy who, you know, making that weight, shedding all that weight. Will it play a factor? Only time will tell. I think that for me, there's three main talking points for this fight. I think Imavov, well, four main talking points. It's the fact that Imavov has faced better opposition in his career thus far. He's more slick and clinical across 5 rounds, and I think this could pay dividends. And I think he's also the heavier hitter. Caio Borralho is a more well-rounded fighter. If I bring the stats back up for a second, you know, takedowns, Caio Borralho averages 1.56 per 15 minutes, whereas Imavov 0.85. Both guys' takedown defense is fairly good, but Caio Borralho is he can take people down, and he can sort of wear the fight time away from the top position. Borralho also has the momentum of the fighting nerds on his side. Carlos Prates, obviously, a few weeks ago, got that massive knockout of Jeff Neal. You've got Jean Silva and Mauricio Ruffy that have got fights coming up. Mauricio Ruffy is in the co-main event of this card. I'll break that one down in a second. But I think the performance of Mauricio Ruffy really plays into or against Caio Borralho, depending on how Ruffy gets on. But just think about that for the past, 3, 4, 5, say 2 months. You've got Carlos Prates peaking for a fight 2 weeks ago. You've got Mauricio Ruffy peaking for a fight on the same fight card as Caio Borralho. You've got Jean Silva, who competes in the main event of UFC. It was meant to be UFC Guadalajara, but he's the week after this fight card in San Antonio, Texas. Diego Lopez and Jean Silva compete in the main event. You've got guys there that are all peaking at the same time. I think the momentum of the fighting nerds as a whole, but that in particular, is going to really play a factor for Borralho. With that being said, this is in Paris. This is in Imavov's backyard. The crowd are going to be on the side of Imavov, and I think the crowd will have a big say. Every time he lands, the crowd's going to go crazy. Especially, like I said, that it's Brazil versus France in both the main and co-main event. Like I said, I'll go on to talk about the co-main event in a second, but if the crowd all hyped up from a Benoit Saint Denis win, can you imagine how hyped up they're going to be for Imavov every time he lands a shot, every time he gets close to a shot? It's going to play a factor, and it might play a factor in the judges' scorecards. My official pick for this main event, I'm going Nassourdine Imavov via decision. I just think he's more well-rounded, he's more used to the 5-round distance, and I do think that he is the heavier hitter. I don't think this one there's going to be a finish in this one, but I do think that Imavov is going to win it, and I think he's going to win it pretty convincingly. With that being said, I wouldn't be shocked and surprised to see a Borralho win. The co-main event is something I've spoken about already a couple of times. Mauricio Ruffy versus Benoit Saint Denis. What a fight. What a piece of matchmaking from the matchmakers in the lightweight division. It's a really fun co-main event. It's a shame it's only 3 rounds, but I can't see it even going 10 minutes, let alone the full 15. I would have loved to see these two in a main event slot, or at least over 5 rounds. It is what it is. We got 5 rounds of Brian Ortega versus Aljamain Sterling. Why couldn't we have got 5 rounds of these guys? But it is what it is. Like I said, I don't think it will play a massive part. I don't think this fight goes the distance. Ruffy has taken a huge step up in competition. His best win is against King Green, a man who's on the older side. He's not top 15. He might have been top 15 at the time, but he's no longer top 15 in the division. That was last time out. That was a spinning wheel kick. It was a phenomenal knockout. He's beaten Jamie Mullarkey. Great win, where he showed not just a well-rounded skill set, but a skill set that we haven't really seen in the octagon before. But Benoit Saint Denis, like Nassourdine Imavov, like his countryman in the main event, has faced much better competition. You know, he faced Matt Frivola, Thiago Moises, Dustin Poirier, Renato Moicano. You know, although there are some losses in there, he's been in there with Dustin Poirier and caused Dustin Poirier problems. He's been in there against Renato Moicano, and although that one didn't go his way, he bounced back last time out with a submission win. That was in Paris. He is going to want to get that one back. He does not like losing on home soil, and I think that will play a massive factor. The crowd is going to be so behind Benoit Saint Denis. He is a former military man representing France. Do you think that the crowd are not going to be behind him? I think that they're going to be so behind Benoit Saint Denis that will give him an extra 10% in the octagon on Saturday night. He might have to adapt his style though, because his walk forward style could get him into trouble. We know that Ruffy is a phenomenal striker, and we know that he's got a wide range of different strikes that he does like to throw. He does like to land the trips as well. And I think if Benoit Saint Denis does just walk forward kind of somewhat recklessly in order to land his strikes, he could get caught. It could get him into trouble. But I think we've seen a more well-rounded game from Saint Denis. He lands 4.19 takedowns per 15 minutes in comparison to Ruffy's 0. He's never shot for a takedown in the UFC. And we haven't seen Ruffy on his back, so that could be interesting. And I do think that that could also play a factor. If Benoit Saint Denis can keep his emotions sort of bottled, and he doesn't let the crowd get the better of him, and he doesn't try and get that one back against from his loss to Renato Moicano, I think that he can win this. And he can either win it, I think he could win it by decision, but I think that he will look to probably batter Ruffy to a stoppage. And I think that there's a chance that he catches a neck or he catches an arm in this one. I think that my official pick is Benoit Saint Denis via submission. He's got 10 wins via submission. In the UFC, he has got, let me check how many he's got in the UFC. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's got 4 wins via submission in the UFC, 2 by knockout. I think Benoit Saint Denis gets this one done by submission. I'm going to go second round. The other fights on the card to watch. This is a stacked card, and it's a really fun card. You've got Oki versus Jones. Mason Jones returning. He was good on his second chance against Jeremy Stephens, the hometown guy, last time out. He showed that he's not just a bullheaded fighter that just takes one to land one. He showed a much more well-rounded skill set in that fight, and got the victory against Jeremy Stephens. Oki is prone to a mistake. He is good. I do think he's good, but he is prone to a mistake, and I think that Jones can make him pay for that. And I'm going Mason Jones via decision. Craig versus Bukauskas is a fight that I don't really want to see. I like both guys. I think both guys are great. It's a striker versus grappler. It could be fun, but we could see Paul Craig sort of attempting to pull guard for 15 minutes like we saw against Volkan Ozdemir. Paul Craig back up at light heavyweight, I think is good for him. Let me just double check, but I think this is his first fight at light heavyweight since dropping down to middleweight. I mean, he's a big guy, Paul Craig, and I think that drop down to middleweight. Oh no, so it's his second fight. Rodolfo Bellato last time out, that no contest. It was a strange one. But, he fought Bo Nickel, he fought Borralho himself, he fought Brendan Allen, he fought Andre Muniz. All of these guys he fought at middleweight. I think the move up, or back up, I should say, in weight, he was able to, he competed in June. He's already able to compete again now in September. I think if he hadn't have moved up in weight, I don't think that really would have been possible. I'm gonna go Craig by decision on this one. I think he gets it done. I think he does enough on the feet to be able to land the takedowns on Bukauskas. I think he gets it done via decision. A fight that we should all be watching out for is Patricky Pitbull versus Losane Keita. It's not an easy fight. First fight in the UFC for Keita, but he's got a lot of high behind him entering into the UFC from Octagon. He's a 2-weight world champion from the Octagon promotion, and that's not any old promotion. That's not like a regional promotion. Octagon is a very well respected promotion. He's an explosive KO artist, but could that explosiveness get him into trouble against Pitbull? Pitbull, obviously, on his UFC debut, didn't look great against Yair Rodriguez. I think that was just too soon for Pitbull at this point in his career. He then kind of dropped down the rankings a little bit and faced Dan Ige. And he did Pitbull things. He took Dan Ige down 5 times. And he can lightly rinse and repeat that game plan for Keita. And I don't think it'll be successful. I'm picking Keita to score the finish in this one. But Pitbull has got the game plan from Dan Ige, who himself is a knockout artist. He can just rinse and repeat that game plan again. I think Keita will burst onto the scene with a big knockout in this one. I'm going second or third round, maybe a TKO in the third round, or a fairly clean knockout in the second. He's going to have Octagon jitters, but I think that he's full of confidence. I'm really looking forward to that one. Ante Delia, forgive me if I'm Delia, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but the former PFL star makes his promotional debut. I think he's 35. But it's a must-win for the heavyweight division as a whole, because it needs a breath of fresh air, it needs a breath of fresh talent into that heavyweight division. It's a stale division at the moment. Once Tom Aspinall inevitably beats Cyril Gane, you've got maybe Gelton Almeida, and then what? You've got nothing else there for Tom Aspinall. However, Marcin Tybura, he won't roll over for Ante. He's a solid competitor. He's had about 100 UFC fights, it seems. Tybura, and he's a solid competitor. He upset Mick Parkin last time out, so Mick Parkin. So I'm just looking down his record now. He just wins a lot of fights as ridiculous. He only loses to the very, very best of the division. Since 2020, he's lost to Alexander Volkov, he's lost to Tom Aspinall, and he's lost to Sergei Spivak. I believe all of those guys, maybe not Spivak, but I believe they're all ranked in the top 5 of the division. So Sergei Spivak's 8, Alexander Volkov is number 2, and of course Tom Aspinall is the champion. So Marcin Tybura doesn't lose to just anyone. And it's a big opportunity for both men, really. Of course, with Delasia making his UFC debut. Elsewhere, Sam Patterson returns, I think, after a tough debut, where he lost. I think he was knocked out in the first round. He's slowly making a push at the top 15 now. Since the move up in weight from lightweight to welterweight, he's looked really good. He's got 3 straight finish victories, all in the first round. I think he's facing Trey Waters in this one. Not an easy fight. I think it's probably the toughest fight of his UFC career. Waters 2-0 in the UFC, both via decision. Last fight got fight of the night. He's a solid all-rounder, I'd say, but I just think that Sam Patterson is one of the better guys in the division. I really do. Waters is going to come out with a lot of volume, I think, but sort of be careful what you wish for a little bit, because Sam Patterson will look to change levels, take you down and choke you out, which is what he's done multiple times. Rhys McKee, just 2 Irish stars left to talk about. Rhys McKee returns after a dominant last outing in April. He's more battle tested than his opponent Sola. Sola's a good striker, however he's going to be the smaller man in there. Rhys McKee needs this win. Obviously he had a tough sort of first run in the UFC, but then if you look at the guys that he lost to in the UFC, I mean, he came in against Khamzat Chimaev, Alex Morono, Ange Lusa, Chidi Njokuani. I mean, you look at those losses, they're some of the better guys in the division. He's lost to the now champion, Khamzat Chimaev. He lost to Alex Morono, who himself was probably ranked at the time. That was when Alex Morono went on a bit of a purple patch from what I can remember. So Alex Morono beat Rhys McKee, lost to Anthony Pettis, but then beat Cerrone, beat Zawada, beat Mickey Gall, beat Selmsberger. So, you know, these aren't bad losses, as it were. Last time out, he scored 3 knockdowns in the first round, and he got the TKO, the doctor's stoppage in the after the first round. I thought was a really, really good performance by Rhys McKee. Axel Sola, like I said, he's going to be the smaller man in there. It's a tough one to pick, but all I can guarantee is that it's going to be a fun fight. It's going to be exciting, and make sure you tune in for it. And opening up the card, Shauna Bannon returns after her comeback victory last time out in London. She was losing that fight. She locked up the armbar. She got the performance of the night from what I can remember. She's going in there against the experienced Sam Hughes, though, this time. And this is a difficult one for Shauna Bannon because she's got to stay on. She doesn't take a shot particularly well. She's 2-1 in the UFC, Shauna Bannon. She lost her debut to Bruna Brazil, I believe. Beat Alice Ardeline, who is not a UFC fighter, who is just... she's a sort of TikTok star who does a bit of MMA on the side. That kind of tells you all you need to know about the strawweight division. And then, like I said, she was losing to Pooja Toma pretty convincingly. She was knocked down in that fight. She was losing that fight, and she managed to snatch the armbar. Fair play to Shauna Bannon. Great finish. But Sam Hughes is a lot more experienced than all of the girls that she's been in there with. You know, she's got 16 fights, 10-6 on her record. She's won her last 2 against Stephanie Luciano and Victoria Dudakova. The Dudakova one in particular, I think she took Dudakova's undefeated streak. It's going to be a tough one for Shauna Bannon because she has to use her movement to stay elusive, but also sit down on her shots when she can, which could prove to be difficult. I'm not 100% sure how she's going to get on because, like I say, she's got to use that movement, but she's got to be able to time it and sit down on her shots when she can to get the to land the harder shots. That is UFC Paris in a nutshell. Leave your thoughts. Who do you think is going to win the main event? It's a close one. It's a real close one. Who do you think is going to win the co-main event? I think that's a guaranteed fight of the night. I think that's a phenomenal fight in itself. Do you think that the winner of the main event faces Khamzat Chimaev next? There's a good chance. Thank you for watching. I will catch you next time. Like, comment and all that good stuff. And next week I will be breaking down UFC Paris, what went on, and looking ahead to the fight night main event between Diego Lopez and Jean Silva. So that should be exciting. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.